Hello, hello. Welcome to Meditation Nerd. I'm glad you're here. I hope you are doing well in this moment right here. So, with your meditative practice, what are some questions that have come up? I have a lot of questions coming up. So, I'm wondering what some of your recurring questions are. After reading Big Mindfulness, I have a lot of why. Why am I doing this? What is this for? Does any of this matter? And then Mr. Purser added to, okay, how have I contributed to the numbing out trend? What ways did I not contribute to the numbing out trend? How do I do better? How do I improve from here with this new knowledge? So I want to take some time to sit with these questions. Maybe answers will arise, maybe they won't. That's not really my goal here. My goal here is to normalize that these questions, when they come up, they're normal. So, for anyone that maybe hasn't had this experience, I fortunately have when the stuff with Yogi Bhajan started to come out. And I did do a video on that, or at least speaking to that. I was lucky enough to be in the position to have to ask those questions. Was Kundalini Yoga still valuable? Did it still benefit me? How do I keep practicing knowing that he was doing these things behind the scenes when this meditative practice was immensely helpful to me at a time when I needed it most? So, this is just another reiteration of that, in my opinion. So, this feels a little bit easier. This feels healthy to me. Like we should be asking questions. It should be perfectly fine when these things arise in your meditative practice. Maybe not to that extreme. That is, in my opinion, that's an extreme example. Um, the point being here that questions I think are valuable. We should be asking if this is still relevant. Does this still hold weight? Am I still practicing because it's aligned, or have I just become comfortable with this habit? So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to sit with the questions that are coming up. So I invite you to take this moment to look at, maybe reflect on any questions that may be coming up for you. And it could even be, why am I practicing with Meditation Nerd? It could be, why do I keep going back to this channel, right? Whatever the questions are, I want you to invite them. I want you to sit with them for a bit, okay? And then I have dropped uh, Nirinjan Kaur's Ether Tattva Waheguru mantra as a container. And I keep offering the mantras as a companion while we practice, because when things start to fall apart, when I feel stressed out, like in, how was I going to finish that? In the moment where I feel stressed out, mantras are what I reach for. So that's why I offer that. Feel free to utilize it, feel free not to. And of course, while we're sitting with these questions, please honor your boundaries. Don't go beyond what you can handle. This is not an endurance test. This is not a medical checkup. I am not a medical professional. I am not a mental health professional. I am a fellow meditator offering the meditative practices that work for me. Okay, so we're going to take a couple moments to sink into where we are. A couple breaths here. Ground into right here. And you may hear some gurgling when I'm dealing with certain stuff. My stomach has a tendency to add its own gurgles to the conversation. So that's just a part of my process. So hopefully you can't hear it. If you can, that's what's happening. Just feel the floor, the chair, whatever you're sitting on beneath you. Feel the solidness of being in your body. If that's within what you can handle, of course, always within your boundaries, right? Anchoring into what you feel comfortable connecting with. One more breath here. And my stomach's going to get louder. Okay, fair enough. Okay, so you're going to gently just allow yourself to open to any questions that keep coming up. And as they come up, just notice the trail that they create within your body, right? And again, of course, keeping trauma informed awareness here, right? Please don't go above or beyond what you can handle. That is important. And you can approach this a couple different ways. If you have a lot of questions like myself, you can allow them all to kind of flow up, get kind of a feel for the trails that they leave. You can choose one specific question, notice what happens with that one. You can do a variation of that or anything else. And feel free to drop it in the comments any way that you approach it if it's completely different, right? Might help somebody else. Okay, so I'm going to focus on the one that feels the heaviest because I'm leaning towards going to the easier question of how do I do better. And that feels easier as in it feels lighter. The one that feels the densest within my body seems to like pull all the energy down is does this even matter? So that's the one that I'm struggling the most with. And I want to lighten that a little bit, even if that's not in the form of an answer. That denseness is really causing some pain and some pressure in my chest, and I don't really care for that. That's adding extra stress to my body that I don't feel is necessary when all I have to do is sit with it. So I'm going to sit with, does this even matter? And generally, what I do when I notice that I'm curling down is I gently inhale and allow my body to sit up straighter and my shoulders back. And these are gentle movements. I'm not like forcing myself upright. In case you do something similar, it's easy to like pull yourself upright, like, oh crap, don't do that. And you can do it gently. There's no need to be aggressive. Okay, so now this is shifting into some fear for me. Okay, so this question is kind of cracking open into more questions. Now, this is part of my process. This feels normal to me. This feels pretty natural. And cracking open the question typically will lead to more questions for me, which will also lighten the density. So if you don't experience it the same, that's perfect. That's perfectly fine. Please don't feel stressed about that. I'm just sharing my process as a way to show that there are many ways to approach this. There's no quote unquote right way to do it when we're just sitting with questions. And then something else that I typically will bring in here when it's like I keep just getting questions on top of questions on top of questions, even if there is a lightning, is I use Byron Katie's The Work to start questioning these thoughts. Not to chase them because I don't, in this setting, I'm not really looking for an answer. I'm not really looking for an endpoint. What I'm looking for is ease. And the word helps me do that. It helps me allow the lightening, the unclenching, so that whatever is there can express itself as a way forward or a next step or um, how to do better, right? So that's typically what I'll add in here as an additional layer. Couple more breaths here. And feel free to bring in a journal here if that's helpful for you, if it helps you to write it down. That's wonderful. Write it down and build out from there or release from there. That's wonderful as well. All right, one more breath here. Okay, so now we're going to take a little bit of a different approach here. And I've offered a couple different ways that you can approach doing this. Here's another one. So I want you to breathe in nice and deep, exhale. And then I want you to just visualize holding the questions. You can do it as a hug, you can do it in your hands. Maybe they're held within just your energetic space. Maybe they're held by colors, right? I don't know, maybe you hold them in math equations, however you want to do it, right? Not clenching, just holding. And then I want you to notice if there's any shift in how your body feels by just holding the questions. And that's not as voices, so they're not still necessarily shouting out or anything like that. You're just holding them gently, right? Like you would any other beloved person, right? You're just holding, okay? Now, of course, if this does not lighten how you feel, if this exacerbates anxiety or tiredness, please discontinue this part, okay? That's an indication that this is not aligned with what's happening. So please just focus on your breath here, maybe open your eyes, touch a wall, that type of thing, whatever you need to do to reground, okay? In that case, just let the questions go, okay? A couple more breaths here. Okay, go ahead and exhale and just let it go. And I want you to just be here with yourself and congratulate yourself for showing up to sit with questions. That's challenging, especially if they're deeper questions that you don't have an answer for. That's hard to sit with, right? Especially in a society where we're expected to come up with answers almost immediately, right? We're supposed to have instant solutions to like anything that comes our way. It can be nice to just sit with what we don't know, questions that arise and we don't have an immediate answer, creating that space within us to be okay with that. That can be challenging to do. At least it was for me when I first started sitting with questions. That was, ugh. So I want you to just congratulate yourself on creating space for that today. You never know what can come from allowing space for questions to arise. Okay, and then slowly expand your awareness back out. Allow it to ripple outward, bringing you back into the room, the sounds around you. Okay, nice. Deep inhale, exhale. When you're ready, open your eyes or sharpen your gaze if you had just softened it. And I just want to remind us all that questions that won't leave us aren't a sign of failure. They're guideposts, right? They are helping us go deeper if we want to, if we choose to follow them, or if we choose to open to them, right? To go deeper within ourselves. And sitting with our questions can be incredibly freeing. So, thank you for joining me. Thank you for sitting with yourself. And something to keep in mind is, how do you want to move forward, right? Did this help you? And there was something else that just left me after I said that. So, super helpful there. I'm just going to sit here for a moment and see if it comes back. Okay, well, I'm going to say that numb. Well, I can feel it brewing there. Okay, well, that specific thought is gone. I do kind of want to speak to really quickly. This was an exercise in going deeper within ourselves to see how we want to move forward to empower ourselves to help where we can, right? Outside of ourselves as well as within. Um, Not as a way to say that everything that's going on can be healed on an individual level, because that just isn't true. Yes, we have a lot of control within ourselves to heal ourselves. That also needs to express itself outward to help communities, right? However, that shows up for us, our interests, our skills, our alignments, our morals, our ethics, right? So, this was not to bring the onus back onto the individual. This was for us to create space for questions that arise, because that may be guiding us to where we can help others the most, help build, that type of thing. So just kind of wanted to reiterate that, just because I don't want to add to the numbing effect. I don't want to add to the co-optation of the meditative space. So just working this in, reminding myself of bringing that awareness to this practice as well. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope you found this helpful. And yeah, that's it. I feel like there's something else and it's not coming. So I'm going to go ahead and let that go. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. See you next time.